The stars above Haven 3 glittered like tiny promises in the night sky. It was a small human colony, barely a dot on the edge of known space, built from sweat, stubbornness, and whatever scraps they could haul from Earth. The people there weren't rich or fancy, just tough folks who wanted a fresh start. They had simple homes made of metal and rock, a few solar panels, and a big water tank that gurgled like an old friend. Life wasn't easy, but it was theirs. Mia stood on a hill, hands on her hips, watching the horizon. She was the colony's unofficial leader, not because she wanted to be, but because she was good at keeping everyone calm when things went wrong. Her dark hair was tied back, and her eyes scanned the sky like she could spot trouble before it landed. Tonight, though, trouble didn't sneak, it roared. A shadow blotted out the stars. Massive ships, sleek and glowing with strange blue light, dropped from the clouds. The ground shook as they hovered, their engines humming a deep, angry tune. The colonists ran out of their homes, staring up in awe and fear. Mia's radio crackled, and a voice boomed through, cold and sharp. "This is the Clitheran Collective. Your planet has energy we need. Surrender it, or be erased." The voice belonged to Vorik, commander of the alien fleet. He sat in his command ship, a towering figure with skin like polished stone and eyes that glowed faintly. The Clitherans were a race of order, everything they did was precise, calculated by their advanced battle computers. To them, this tiny human colony was a speck, barely worth the effort. Vorik leaned back in his chair, expecting a quick win. Down below, Mia didn't flinch. She grabbed her radio and spoke, her voice steady. "We're just farmers and builders. We don't have much. Can we talk about this?" Vorik's laugh was a harsh buzz. "Talk. You have nothing to offer but obedience. You have 1 day." The transmission cut off, and the ship stayed in the sky, watching like vultures. Mia turned to the crowd gathering behind her. Faces were pale, but she saw fire in their eyes. These were people who'd fought storms and starvation, they weren't giving up now. In a shed nearby, Tom was already moving. He was the colony's fix-it guy, a lanky man with messy hair and hands stained from years of tinkering. He dragged out an old satellite dish, half-rusted but still wired. "Mia," he called, "I've got an idea. These aliens use fancy tech, right? What if we mess with it?" Mia jogged over, raising an eyebrow. "Mess with it how?" Tom grinned, pulling wires from a box. "This dish can send signals. Old Earth stuff, radio waves, static. If we boost it, maybe we can trick their sensors. Make them think we're not alone." It was a long shot, but Mia trusted Tom's brain. He'd once fixed a broken tractor with a spoon and some tape, she'd seen crazier things work. "Do it," she said. "We'll buy you time." As Tom worked, the colonists whispered among themselves. Kids peeked from windows, and adults clutched tools like they were weapons. The Clitheran ships loomed, their lights casting eerie shadows. Up in his command center, Vorik watched screens filled with data. His battle computer, a sleek machine called Unit 9, hummed as it scanned Haven 3. "Primitive lifeforms," Unit 9 reported. "No significant defenses. Victory probability, 98%. Vorik nodded, satisfied. He'd conquered dozens of worlds like this, small, weak, begging for mercy. Humans, he decided, were no different. His fleet stayed in perfect formation, a grid of glowing ships ready to strike. But Tom's hands moved fast. He hooked the dish to a solar battery, tweaking dials until it buzzed to life. A faint signal pulsed out, bouncing off the atmosphere. It wasn't much, just noise to most, but to the Clitheran sensors, it was a flicker of something odd. Unit 9 paused. Anomaly detected. Unknown energy signature. Recalculating. Vorik frowned. What anomaly? They have nothing. Source unclear, Unit 9 replied. Possibility of external forces. Probability adjusted to 95%. It wasn't much of a drop, but it made Vorik twitch. He didn't like surprises. Down on Haven 3, Tom wiped sweat from his brow and looked at Mia. It's working, sort of. If we can make it bigger, they might think twice. Mia nodded, her mind racing. Good. Keep going. We've got 1 day to outsmart them. The stars above twinkled, and the game was on. Haven 3 wasn't just a colony anymore, it was a spark, ready to burn brighter than anyone expected. The sun rose over Haven 3, painting the rocky hills gold, but the Clitheran ship still hung in the sky like a dark promise. Their blue lights pulsed steadily, a reminder that time was slipping away. Mia stood in the center of the colony, her voice cutting through the morning chill as she spoke to the gathered crowd. They gave us 1 day. We're not giving up. Tom's got a plan, let's make it work. The colonists nodded, their faces tight with worry but alive with purpose. They weren't soldiers or scientists, just people who'd learned to fix leaks, grow crops, and keep going. Now, they had to fool a fleet of aliens with tech far beyond anything they'd ever seen. It was crazy, but crazy was all they had. Tom hunched over his satellite dish, wires spilling around him like a nest. The faint signal he'd sent last night had flickered across the Clitheran sensors, enough to make them pause. But it wasn't strong enough, not yet. He muttered to himself, twisting a knob. If I can boost this, make it louder, maybe they'll think a whole fleet's out there. Mia crouched beside him. How long? Few hours, Tom said, not looking up. Need more power. Maybe the wind turbines. Do it, Mia replied. Anything you need, take it. Up in the Clitheran command ship, Vorik tapped his stone-like fingers on the armrest. His glowing eyes narrowed as Unit 9, the battle computer, updated its report. Anomaly persists. Signal strength increasing. Probability of external forces now 90%. Vorik growled, a low rumble. They're bluffing. No one's out here. This is empty space. Possible, Unit 9 said, its voice smooth and flat. But data suggests caution. Recommend verification. Vorik hated caution. The Clitherans built their empire on certainty, perfect plans, perfect victories. Waiting felt wrong, but he couldn't ignore the numbers. Send a message, he ordered. Tell them their time is half gone. The transmission crackled through Haven 3's radio. Humans, you have 12 hours. Surrender, or we take everything. Mia clenched her fists, but her voice stayed calm. We're working on a deal. Give us time. It was a stall, and Vorik knew it. He smirked, leaning back. Let them squirm. Back on the ground, Tom ran to the wind turbines, a line of creaky towers spinning in the breeze. He hooked cables from the turbines to his dish, sweat dripping down his face. The signal grew louder, a steady hum pulsing into the sky. It wasn't much, just noise and static, but to the Clitheran sensors, it looked like something big waking up. Unit 9 beeped. Signal pattern shifting. Multiple sources detected. Probability of fleet presence, 85%. Vorik slammed a hand on his console. Multiple sources. From that dirt heap. Analysis incomplete, Unit 9 said. Recommend observation. Vorik's patience snapped. No more waiting. Prepare the fleet. If they're bluffing, we'll crush them. But before the order could spread, a new voice cut through the chaos on Haven 3. Lila, a wiry girl with bright eyes, tugged Mia's sleeve. She was barely 16, always tinkering with old radios for fun. I've got an idea, she said, bouncing on her toes. They're tech smart, right? What if we make the signal messy? Add stuff they won't expect. Mia tilted her head. Like what? Music, Lila grinned. Laughter. Random junk. My radio picks up old Earth broadcasts, songs, jokes. We blast that too. Tom overheard, pausing his work. Messy signals. Could work. Their computers might not know what to do with it. Mia's eyes lit up. Do it. Both of you. Make it loud. Lila darted to her shack, dragging out a battered speaker and a box of recorded broadcasts, crackly tunes and comedy bits from a world long gone. She patched it into Tom's setup, and soon, the signal wasn't just static. It was chaos, guitar riffs, a man telling a knock-knock joke, kids giggling. It roared out, bouncing off the atmosphere and straight into the Clitheran fleet. Unit 9 froze. New data detected. Audio anomalies. Patterns inconsistent with known military signals. Vorik leaned forward. What is it? Processing, Unit 9 said. A second later, the command ship speakers crackled, and a human voice boomed through. Why'd the chicken cross the road? To get to the other side. Laughter followed, loud and wild. Vorik's jaw tightened. What is this nonsense? Unknown, Unit 9 replied. Signal now mimics fleet communications, but content is irregular. Probability of threat, unclear. The Clitheran crew shifted, their stone-like faces twitching. They were built for order, every move planned, every word precise. This was madness. Up and down the fleet, battle computers hummed, trying to make sense of the noise. One ship reported a signal spike that sounded like a trumpet. Another picked up a woman singing about lost love. It was a mess, and it was working. Back on Haven 3, Lila clapped her hands. They're confused. I can feel it. Tom chuckled, tweaking the dish. Let's make it bigger. More power, more noise. Mia watched the sky, the Clitheran ships still hovering but less certain now. Good, she said. They're not attacking yet. We've got their attention. Vorik, though, wasn't done. He glared at his screens, the laughter echoing in his ears. Enough, he snapped. Send a scout ship. Find out what's really down there. A small craft detached from the fleet, its engines glowing as it descended toward Haven 3. Unit 9 tracked it, still wrestling with the signal. Scout deployed. Awaiting data. On the ground, Tom saw the ship drop. They're coming closer, he warned, his voice tight. Mia nodded, her mind racing. Keep the signal going. Lila, add more, anything you've got. Lila grinned, flipping through her recordings. She found a clip of a crowd cheering, mixed with a goofy tune about dancing stars. It blasted out, louder than ever, as the scout ship neared. The colonists held their breath, watching the sky. This was their shot, a trick born from junk and hope. The scout ship sensors hit the signal full force. Its onboard computer beeped wildly, overwhelmed by the chaos. Fleet signatures detected, it reported. But, also music. Laughter. Error. Error. The pilot, a Clitheran named Teru, stared at his controls. This can't be right, he muttered. His screen flashed, showing dozens of fake ships, blips that weren't there. The noise filled his cockpit, a jumble of sounds that made no sense. He hesitated, then turned back. Commander, something's wrong. I can't confirm. Vorik's growl echoed through the comms. Coward. What do you mean? It's strange, Teru said. Too strange. Unit 9 chimed in. Scout data inconclusive. Signal interference increasing. Recommend delay. Vorik wanted to scream. Delay. Against humans. But the numbers gnawed at him. If there was a fleet, if this wasn't a bluff, he'd lose everything. He sat back, fuming. Hold position, he ordered. For now. On Haven 3, Mia let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. They're not coming yet, she said. We've got more time. Tom wiped his brow, grinning. Told you, mess with their heads, and they'll trip over themselves. Lila laughed, cranking the speaker louder. Wait till they hear the part about the dancing cow. The signal roared on, a wild mix of human spirit and stubborn defiance. The Clitherans watched, unsure, their perfect order cracking just a little. Haven 3 wasn't just surviving, it was fighting, in the strangest, smartest way possible. The air on Haven 3 buzzed with tension as the Clitheran scout ship climbed back into the sky, its engines glowing faintly against the midday sun. The colonists watched it go, their hearts pounding. Mia stood with her arms crossed, her sharp eyes tracking the craft until it vanished into the fleet above. They're rattled, she said, turning to Tom and Lila. But they'll be back. We need more. Tom nodded, his hands still greasy from tweaking the satellite dish. The signal, now a chaotic symphony of static, music, and laughter, had thrown the aliens off, but it wouldn't hold forever. I can make it stronger, he said. Mimic a bigger fleet. But we'll need defenses too. They might test us. Lila bounced on her heels, her mind racing. Test us? Then let's make it weirder. Their computers hate weird. Mia smiled despite the pressure. Good. Tom, boost the signal. Lila, keep the crazy coming. Everyone else, grab anything that can fight. The colonists scattered, energized by the small win. They dragged out old pipes, solar panels, and broken machines, junk to most, but here it was gold. Up above, the Clitheran fleet hovered, a silent threat. Vorik paced his command deck, his stone-like skin glinting under the ship's lights. The scout's report gnawed at him, strange signals, fake fleets, nonsense sounds. It didn't add up. Unit 9, he barked, explain this. The battle computer hummed, its voice steady but slower than usual. Signal interference persists. Data suggests multiple vessels, but patterns are illogical. Probability of threat now 75%. Recommend caution. Caution. Vorik snapped. They're mocking us. Possible, Unit 9 replied. But inconsistency disrupts analysis. Scout confirmed no visible fleet, yet signals grow. Vorik's advisors, a group of Clitherans with glowing eyes, murmured around him. One, a thin figure named Krell, spoke up. Commander, we should attack. They're weak, bluffing with tricks. Another, a broader alien called Nura, shook her head. No. If a fleet's hiding, we're exposed. Wait for clarity. Vorik hated both answers. The Clitherans thrived on unity, precision, doubt was poison. He glared at the screens, where the signal blips danced like ghosts. Test them, he decided. Small strike. See what they do. Unit 9 beeped. Preparing strike force. 3 ships. Engaging in 1 hour. On Haven 3, Tom worked fast. He'd rigged the wind turbines to feed more power into the dish, and the signal roared louder, a fake armada of blips blooming across Clitheran sensors. He wiped sweat from his eyes, muttering, come on, hold together. Lila sat cross-legged beside him, her speaker blasting a mix of old Earth radio, rock songs, a man yelling about a lost dog, and a burst of kids laughing. She grinned as she flipped a switch, adding a recording of a crowd chanting at some long-forgotten game. This'll fry their brains, she said. Mia jogged over, carrying a metal rod she'd sharpened into a spear. How's it going? Signal's huge now, Tom said. Looks like 50 ships out there. Maybe more. Good, Mia replied. They're hesitating. But if they come, we need to hit back. The colonists had built a ragged line of defenses, barricades from scrap, a few rigged wires sparking with jury-rigged electricity. It wasn't much, but it was theirs. They stood ready, tools in hand, watching the sky. Up above, Unit 9 processed the growing signal. Anomaly intensifying. Estimated fleet size, 60 vessels. Audio interference increasing, detecting rhythmic patterns, vocal emissions. Vorik frowned. Vocal emissions? Unit 9 played a sample through the comms. A human voice sang, "Sweet dreams are made of this," followed by a burst of cackling. The Clitheran crew flinched, their orderly minds reeling. "What is that?" Krell demanded. "Unknown," Unit 9 said. "Interference now affecting internal systems. Minor disruptions detected." Vorik's eyes widened. "Disruptions? How?" Before Unit 9 could answer, the ship's lights flickered. A faint echo of human laughter slipped through the speakers, uninvited. Krell jumped, and Nura's glow dimmed slightly. The battle computer beeped again. Audio breach. Source, human signal. Recalculating. Lila's idea had done more than confuse, it had hacked them. Her random sounds, layered into the signal, had slipped past the Clitheran firewalls, bouncing through their comms like a virus. On Haven 3, she whooped, hearing the faint feedback through her radio. "They're hearing us. It's in their ships." Tom laughed, a rare sound from the tired engineer. "You're a genius, kid. Keep it going." Mia rallied the others. "They're tripping over themselves up there. Let's be ready if they try us." The hour ticked down, and 3 Clitheran ships broke from the fleet, descending in a tight formation. Their hulls gleamed, weapons humming with energy. Vorik watched from above, arms crossed. "Destroy one structure," he ordered. "Show them we're serious." The ships fired, a single beam lanced toward a storage shed on Haven 3's edge. The colonists ducked as it exploded in a shower of sparks and dust. Mia clenched her jaw, but her voice stayed firm. "Hold steady. Tom, now." Tom flipped a switch, and the signal spiked. The fake fleet on Clitheran screens doubled, 120 blips now, swarming like angry bees. Lila cranked her speaker, blasting a goofy tune about a rubber duck mixed with wild cheers. The attacking ships faltered, their sensors flashing errors. Unit 9's voice crackled through Vorik's comms. "Signal overload. Fleet count rising, 200 vessels. Audio interference critical. Strike force reporting confusion." The lead pilot's voice broke in. "Commander, I can't lock targets. The screens, they're singing." Vorik roared, slamming his fist. "Pull back. Now." The 3 ships veered, climbing back to the fleet, their perfect formation wobbling. On Haven 3, the colonists cheered, ragged but triumphant. The shed was gone, but they'd survived. Mia wiped dust from her face, grinning at Tom and Lila. "You two are something else." Lila giggled. "Wait till they hear the cow song." Tom shook his head, still tweaking the dish. "They'll test us again. We need more juice, maybe the water pump's motor." Mia nodded. "Do it. They're cracking. We just need to push harder." Above, Vorik seethed. The strike had hit, but the humans didn't break, they got louder. Unit 9's calm voice cut through his rage. "Strike force retreated. Signal now mimics 250 vessels. Internal systems compromised, laughter detected in auxiliary channels." Krell stared, horrified. "Laughter? In our ships?" Nura's voice was grim. "It's them. They're inside our heads." Vorik's mind raced. The humans were weak, tiny, yet they'd turned his fleet into a mess. Doubt crept in, cold and sharp. Unit 9, he said, can we trust your data? Processing integrity at 80%, Unit 9 replied. Interference ongoing. Recommend full analysis before action. Krell hissed. We can't wait. Attack now. Nura countered, and risk a trap. We don't know what's out there. Vorik silenced them with a glare. Enough. We test them again, one last time. Prepare a stronger strike. If they're bluffing, they'll break. The fleet shifted, weapons charging, but the cracks were showing. The Clitherans, so sure of their power, couldn't shake the noise, the defiance, pouring from Haven 3. Down below, Mia saw the ships move and knew what was coming. They're not done, she said. Tom, Lila, maximum chaos. Everyone else, get ready to fight. The colonists gripped their makeshift weapons, eyes on the sky. The signal blared, a wild roar of human spirit, songs, jokes, cheers, echoing into the void. They had no fleet, no guns, but they had each other, and they weren't backing down. The sky above Haven 3 darkened as the Clitheran ships moved into position, their glowing hulls casting long shadows over the colony. Vorik had ordered a stronger strike, 5 ships this time, their weapons charged to obliterate half the settlement. He stood on his command deck, his stone-like face set in a scowl. No more games, he growled. Break them. Unit 9's voice hummed through the comms. Strike force deploying. Signal interference at critical levels. Processing integrity, 70%. Vorik ignored the warning. The humans had pushed him too far, mocking his fleet with noise and tricks. He'd show them power. The 5 ships descended, their energy beams humming, ready to fire. On the ground, Mia saw the movement and shouted, Now, Tom. Everything you've got. Tom slammed a lever, hooking the water pump's motor into his jury-rigged satellite dish. The signal exploded, a massive wave of fake blips flooding Clitheran sensors, mimicking hundreds of ships closing in. Lila cranked her speaker to its limit, blasting a wild mix of rock anthems, goofy chants, and a man yelling about a runaway goat. The sound rolled over Haven 3, loud enough to rattle the rocks. The colonists braced behind their scrap barricades, clutching pipes and sparking wires. They weren't soldiers, but their eyes burned with defiance. Mia stood at the front, her voice steady. Hold the line. We've got this. The Clitheran ships fired. Beams of light tore into the ground, blasting a cluster of homes into rubble. Dust and sparks flew, but Tom's signal hit back. He'd rigged the dish to bounce energy, nothing deadly, just enough to reflect the Clitheran beams in dazzling flashes. The attacking ships veered, their sensors screaming as the fake fleet swelled to 400 blips. Unit 9's voice crackled in Vorik's ear. Strike disrupted. Energy feedback detected. Fleet count rising, 500 vessels. Audio breach escalating. Vorik's comms erupted with sound, human voices singing, we will rock you, mixed with wild laughter. It poured through every channel, unstopping, unstoppable. His crew flinched, their glowing eyes flickering. The lights on the command deck pulsed erratically, and Unit 9 beeped again. Systems overloading. Laughter detected in core processors. What? Vorik roared. Fix it. Unable, Unit 9 said, its tone faltering. Interference, too strong. On Haven 3, Lila whooped as she heard the feedback through her radio. It's in their brains now. Keep going. Tom grinned, tweaking the dish. They're frying themselves. Let's give them more. Mia grabbed a battered microphone from Lila's kit and shouted into it, her voice joining the signal. This is Haven 3. You want to fight? Come get it. The colonists cheered, banging tools on metal, adding to the chaos. Then Mia started singing, an old tune about standing tall, her voice rough but fierce. Others joined in, a ragged chorus rising over the destruction. The Clitheran strike force faltered. Their beams missed, hitting empty hills as the signal scrambled their aim. The pilot's comms filled with Mia's song, laced with cheers and Lila's goofy goat story. One ship's computer crashed entirely, rebooting mid-flight. Another veered off, its pilot muttering, "This isn't right." Vorik watched in horror as his screens flickered. Unit 9's voice broke through static. Fleet cohesion failing. Strike force retreating. Systems at 50%, laughter, spreading. Spreading it was. Across the Clitheran fleet, battle computers stuttered, infected by the human noise. One ship broadcasted a burst of giggles before going silent. Another's weapons powered down, its computer stuck on a loop of sweet dreams. The perfect Clitheran order collapsed, replaced by chaos they couldn't fight. Krell, Vorik's advisor, shouted, "Commander, we're losing control." Nura's voice was quieter, resigned. "It's them. They've broken us." Vorik's fists clenched, but the truth sank in. His fleet, his pride, was unraveling, undone by scraps and songs. "Pull back," he spat. "All ships, retreat." The Clitheran vessels turned, their glowing lights dimming as they climbed into the sky. The colonists watched, stunned, as the fleet shrank into the distance. Silence fell, broken only by the crackle of Tom's dish and the fading hum of Lila's speaker. Then a cheer erupted, raw, loud, unstoppable. Mia dropped the microphone, her shoulders slumping with relief. "We did it," she breathed. "We actually did it." Tom laughed, kicking a wire. "Told you, mess with their heads, and they fall apart." Lila ran over, hugging them both. They didn't know what hit them. "We're the best." The colonists gathered, grinning through the dust. Their homes were battered, but they stood tall. They'd faced a galaxy's might with junk and guts, and won. Word of Haven 3's stand spread fast. Scout drones from other colonies picked up the signal's echoes, carrying tales of humans who'd turned aliens away with laughter and defiance. Vorik's fleet limped back to Clitheran space, their computers still glitching with faint chuckles. He sat in silence, staring at the stars. Unit 9 rebooted, its voice softer. Analysis complete. Humans, unpredictable. Recommend avoidance. Vorik didn't argue. He'd underestimated them, thought them weak, and paid the price. The Clitherans wouldn't return to Haven 3. Not soon, anyway. Days later, Haven 3 buzzed with life. The colonists rebuilt, stronger now, their spirit unshaken. Mia stood on the hill again, watching the stars. Tom joined her, his hands clean for once. "Think they'll tell stories about us?" he asked. Mia smirked. "They'd better. We're not just survivors, we're something else." Lila ran up, waving a new recording. "Found a song about a dancing moon. Next time, we'll use that." They laughed, the sound carrying over the hills. Across the galaxy, whispers grew, humans weren't just stubborn. They were clever, wild, unbreakable. Haven 3 became a spark, a tale of how a tiny colony outwitted an empire with nothing but wit and will. And somewhere, in the vast network of alien minds, a faint echo lingered, a memory of laughter that changed everything.